Hey everybody, welcome to Meet at the Tavern. This here is Sean Patrick, he's my son. He's filling in for Dennis, I'm Jack. Dennis is not here this week, his girlfriend had ended up getting COVID. So, they're going to keep their Rona to themselves. And we're going to do this podcast here at Sean Patrick's apartment. For all you folks, he wants to be known as Sean, not Sean Patrick. So here we are. He's got his new apartment. We're going to have it here. We're going to take care of business and do our podcast from here this week. Thanks for sitting in.
Yep.
It's fun. And we'll start off. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. We got a flag over there in the kitchen. Seeing as Sean Patrick's a former military guy. He was an American long ago. Ow. What? Watch out for the thing. We got a chandelier. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, stay standing for Mike's prayer.
Dear Lord, please forgive us for our sins and keep sin far from us. Lord, please bless this podcast and all that create it and listen to it. Lord, please protect us from the evil that are ruling us and keep the evil that work with them far from us. Lord, please have mercy on this nation and have our leaders do your will. Lord, thank you for all the blessings you give us. Thank you for your salvation, your words, your forgiveness, your long-suffering, your mercy, and your grace. Thank you for our children and our grandchildren, our families and our friends and loved ones. Thank you, Lord, for the roof you put over our heads, the food you put in our stomachs, the clothing you put on our backs, the shoes you put on our feet. Lord, please protect us from Satan, his devils, the evils of this world, and the evil weather that we've been having. Protect us from the coronavirus and all other viruses and sicknesses. Lord, please protect your people and bring peace to Israel. Rapture us up and come down and reign. Lord, let everyone hear your gospel, call upon your name, and be saved by you, Lord. Please help us to give you thanks and praise for all that you do. Please help all those that are sick and make them well. Lord, we are so thankful, grateful, and love you dearly. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Mike. Mike also wanted to let us know that if there is a type of scripture that you want to hear or something you want to learn about, put it in the comments and he'll work on that. If there's anybody you want us to pray for, whether they're not feeling well, going through a crisis, whatever the issue is, if you need, we can put that into our prayer. And if the list gets long, and it's, because we like to try and keep the prayer and everything in the beginning of this about 2 minutes of the show, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. If it gets to be too much and too long, Mike will take down all the notes and he'll do the prayer himself. He prays every morning before he starts his day, and he'll put them in his prayer. So, thank you, Mike. Is that good enough?
Yeah, there's a prayer request. Just, leave a list, I guess, under the comments or wherever they leave their comments, and we'll take notes of the names. They don't even have to put their name. They could just say, unmentioned.
Or whatever kind of illness it is.
And we can pray for them.
Or you can email it to us. We don't have it behind us because we're not at Dennis's, but it's USCG 20211 at AOL.com. Right. I'm such a computer whiz. I know everything. So it's USCG 20211 at AOL.com.
Or Facebook. They can also leave it on the Facebook
Or you can leave it on the Facebook page. My sister Margaret will send it over to us. Or if you're in one of the states that have a Facebook, a state Facebook, like South Carolina, my son Jack takes care of that. He's over there. We're not going to have a speaker show. Jack's kind of taking it easy today. Not as easy as my brother Mike sitting in a recliner chair there, but he's still taking it pretty easy. He's got a nice seat in the couch, looking out the window, looking at the ocean. My son Sean Patrick's got a pretty nice apartment right now. So that's that. So first round today, I'm going to talk. The podcast is going to be about Department of Education. It's a federal, it's part of the executive branch. But before we get into that, first round is on me. Cheers. I don't have my little Constitution glasses. They're over at Dennis's house.
They're contaminated.
Yeah, we're going to have to wash them. But, hey, listen. To Dennis and his girlfriend, feel better. Hopefully Dennis doesn't get it. And hopefully she gets over it real quick. Hopefully maybe she had the vaccine or something. She doesn't get a bad case of it. So what I want to talk about first is the Supreme Court ruling. They ruled against OSHA, which I could not believe they did. Because when you have bureaucracies allowed to make the regulations, the fines, and litigate them, I mean, OSHA's allowed to do everything else. They're allowed to tell your companies, hey, you got to wear a hard hat. You got to put the description and ingredients and what needs to be done on all chemicals in job locations. They're allowed to say pretty much anything that goes on. I thought for sure. So a lot of people were asking, why did the president, go around Congress and put this in OSHA's hands, where OSHA was going to regulate that all of these companies with 100 plus employees had to have a vaccine mandate or you're fired. And the reason why they did that is because in the Constitution it says if Congress gives up their legislative abilities and lawmaking to a bureaucracy, they outweigh it. And I thought it was a smart move on Biden, not for the American people, but for his stupidity to put it through OSHA. But for a change, the Supreme Court did the right thing. And I find that more and more rare. As a matter of fact, there was a Roberts and Kavanaugh. You remember the whole big carry-on? Everybody tried to support Kavanaugh when Democrats were muckraking him and putting him through. Well, he feels that he can cleanse his soul by going through the left. They sided with the liberals on the Justice Supreme Court bench and said that health care is now going to have to be reheard in a lower court on if they have to be any healthcare facility that accepts Medicare is going to fall under the federal, and they have to have the vaccine or they get fired. So that's going to be reheard. Attorney General from Missouri is going to plead the case against that lower court, saying that, listen, if you do that, it's going to affect a lot of rural areas where you have to go maybe 100 miles to see a hospital or a nursing home, that if you understaff these places by enforcing a vaccine mandate that it's against people's religion, or they just don't know enough about the vaccine, or they don't feel comfortable about it enough, well, you're fired. So it would close those hospitals and nursing homes. So if you have somebody, a grandparent or somebody elderly that has an Alzheimer's problem or something like that, they're going to be transferred to a new facility. They're not going to know anybody. It's going to start all over for them. It may cause more harm. Or these health facilities, hospitals and stuff, are going to have to close down. So instead of going 100 miles to a hospital in these rural areas, now you're going to have to go 200 miles, maybe to a different state if you're on the borders because of these things. So Roberts and Kavanaugh, way to go, not to have a backbone. Stand up for the American people. Again, we had showed in previous podcasts that the Supreme Court will rule through political pressure and popular voice. And that's why we feel in the Independent Constitutional Party that they should have term limits, because then they won't. 18 years is long enough to run as work as a Supreme Court justice. You should have a nice long life after that, and come back to your community and represent them in a good way, and not feel so beholden to these politicians and the evil ways of Washington, D.C. You have anything on that? Any feeling on that?
Yeah. I feel like it shouldn't even be up for discussion. If OSHA's, they're forcing all of these nurses, they were good enough, and these doctors, good enough during the height of this pandemic. But now on the back end of it, you're not allowed. You're no longer employed here because you refuse to get this vaccine. How is that okay? But now, I'd find it real hard that it wouldn't pass in the medical field. Because how could you tell all these construction workers or electricians, yeah, you're okay, you don't need the vaccine. I know you work for the biggest company in New York or South Carolina or wherever it may be. You don't need this vaccine. But now here's the other thing. How do you take that nurse or those doctors back, or how are they willing to come back after they laid you off? And now that the Supreme Court's doing the right thing, it might backfire them as well.
Yeah, because
hey, I'm not coming back. I was here when you needed me, and now you let me go, and now I get it. It's okay. Now you're right and you're wrongs, but in today's society, you don't know.
Yeah, and
who's willing to come back.
They didn't even lay these people off. They fired them. A lot of these people may not have been allowed to get unemployment in certain states because they were fired.
Yeah, and that's what it comes back to. Like, well, how are you going to benefit me now? You left me on the curb. Am I going to get compensated for your wrongfulness?
And also, if I can butt in, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well,
They're still going to get the coronavirus. Whether it was a mild case or not, it's still going to be contagious.
well, there you have a problem, and that's the CDC's fault, and that wicked guy, Dr. Fauci. They sold this vaccine as, you get the vaccine, it is going to cure you 90% from coronavirus. Then it went down. But you know what? If you get it, you're not going to be able to transmit it or pass it on to other people. They've been caught in lie after lie after lie after lie with this. Yeah, you know what? I got coronavirus after I got the vaccine, and I do believe it helped me not get such a severe case. But that saying, now they don't know, well, they do know, they know it all, that, you know what, I have coronavirus, and I had the vaccine, but I can still pass it on to my father, who I don't want to. He's almost 80 years old, my dad. He's one of those guys. I don't want to pass it on to my dad, but you sold it to me that I wouldn't, and that's why I got it. I got the coronavirus vaccine because you told me that if I get it, my dad's going to be safe through me. I'm not going to be able to transmit it to him. Now you lied. You lied!
Well, not only that, when the coronavirus first came out, you had to quarantine for 14 days.
Now it's down to 5.
Now you have, supposedly, a more deadly, more contagious, this
More
Omicron,
contagious, you're right.
more contagious. Every American will get it, but if you get these boosters and the vaccines and all that, you will, and that may be the case. But then you make it, if it's more contagious, now we lower the days from 14 days to 5 days.
And here's the thing, too, that we saw. The American people feel that if you get coronavirus, there's nothing you can do except for go home, feel sick, and quarantine yourself so you don't give it to anybody. Because, listen, America is made up of good people. And the American people don't want to get strangers and sick people and people they don't know ill. So they're going to stay home. They're going to, and there's no rhyme or reason when you're allowed to go back to society. You're just stuck on this little leper island until you kind of venture back out again and be like, hi, anybody want to be my friend again?
Yeah.
I had corona, but I haven't had the symptoms for a long time. Can I be your friend again? There are treatments to coronavirus, but they refuse to give it to us. They refuse to talk about it. And, you got the President of the United States begging social media, you need to stop this falsehood that's going out on social media. Listen, folks, there's a lot of difference between communism fascism, socialism, democracy, capitalism. There's a lot in those four types of government. A free republic with capitalism backing it, communism, fascism, socialism. Fascism is the government, it's privately owned business run through the government. So the government's telling these companies to do stuff that it's against the law of the government to do. It's against the law to do this, but the government's telling social media to do it anyway. What the government's saying is, listen, social media, we give you a lot of power. We gave you a lot of freedoms. You're making a lot of money. Now we're kind of telling you, listen, block people like us. The only reason why we're not blocked is because we got a small viewing so far. But, they do it to other people. Operation Veritas, Trump, 45th president's allowed on a lot of these social medias. They're telling the social media to stop private citizens' free speech because they can't. So that's fascism, folks. And I don't think that the squad, this absent-minded professor we got in the White House, the vice president, these people don't understand what they're setting up. They're setting up fascism. They think it's socialism, but it's not. So you have Biden sitting there begging social media to join his what he wants to be said out there, and anybody else. They're evil. They're wrong. Cut them off. Don't allow them. And you want to know something? These assholes that are running these social medias, they're cutting the American people out. We cannot communicate to each other through social media anymore.
Well, if they don't have...
That goes through the pastors, too. There's the pastors that are online, Facebook, because it started when they tried to shut down these churches. And any one of them that mentioned anything about vaccines, because a lot of religion, they don't believe in it. They take down that, they try to take down that, that verse, those, his recordings.
Yep. And when they don't have social media do it, they just send the FBI to your house.
There you go.
And keep you quiet. So when it doesn't work on social media...
Well, it's not the FBI anymore, that's the KGB.
Yeah, but...
Show me a man, I'll show you a crime.
FBI will show up at your front door and raid your house because, God forbid, you say something.
Yeah, what did we used to say? We used to talk badly about other countries with political police.
Yeah, what's it called? It's called the Banana Republic.
Right.
So, we got that. So, watch out for the next election. Everybody thinks we're going to be, it's in the bag that, there's going to be a red wave. But they're trying to get that election law put in where it's federally mandated. You need to have a vaccination card, your ID, so they know it's the vaccination card, to buy a Big Mac in New York, Chicago, California, in these, Michigan, Minnesota, which, by the way, Minnesota, you have a guy running. I have to look into him more. The next podcast, I'll tell you more about this guy. He's a combat veteran. He's an educated guy and came back to civilian life and became a very successful CEO. Is now running for governor in Minnesota. So you folks in Minnesota that elected AOC, I don't know what's wrong with you folks, but you did it, and you got this crazy governor in Minnesota. Take a look at this guy. If you want to come back to the United States, maybe see what he's all about. You might be back into the 50 states of the United States instead of communist China. Back. Michigan, too. You got to get rid of that maniac. I mean, she even looks like a maniac on TV. I mean, holy mackerel. But anyway, start looking for these midterms. You got to start getting people. Like I said, these elections affect the United States. If you want to live under a governor that's a maniac, so be it. God bless you. Good luck. But when you elect people like Omar into Congress, and she's a representative, that affects all of us. She's got 6 people in her group now called the Squad, and they're one's crazier than the other, and they're forcing the Democratic Party. They have a soft-headed absentee Speaker of the House. She's 82 years old. I think she might be losing some of her faculty, and she's falling into this now. Schumer is a maniac. He's falling into that. When Schumer was first elected in New York State, he was kind of a mid-of-the-way, conservative Democrat. Now he's a lunatic. I mean, he talks stupid. You watch what he had said when he first got elected, and you listen to him now, you're like, whoa, when did Charles Schumer put his evil twin brother into office? The guy talks like a lunatic. But anyway, I digress. Biden went to Georgia, which is a state we have to watch in the midterms because they're on the fence. They had that woman that ran for governor on the last one, and she lost. She still hasn't conceded. Talking about how the rest of the country is racist because they want you to, believe it or not, can you believe this, have ID to go vote. Yeah, it's me. I need an ID. They don't want ID to vote, but you need ID to go out to dinner. Yeah, this is me. This is my vaccination. It's truly me. But listen, yeah, they don't care who it is. Yeah, come in, vote. You want it? Here, vote on this. This is what we want.
No, even the mail-in votes.
Mail-in votes. Yeah. They're even worse.
I had a conversation with Mom the other day. I said, the only people who should be able to do the mail-in votes, because of a certain age, I get it, if you have, or the military overseas. While I was over in Germany, every year I got the mail-in vote.
Absentee voters. Those are the only ones.
But listen, that wasn't free willy-nilly either. They knew who you were when you said
absolutely.
Now they don't care who you are.
But that's what I'm getting at. We need to get back to the roots of there is a select people that deserve that mail-in vote. I was over in Germany. I can't fly back to go vote.
I got three of those mail-in.
In Pennsylvania, which is a liberal state.
I got 3 of them.
Yeah, I mean it's corrupt. Like that alone should tell you something.
Yes.
I got 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. There's more votes than there are people over here.
My brother Mike was allowed to vote in Pennsylvania without ID. It expired 20-year ID from the post office. He doesn't drive. He didn't have a Pennsylvania state ID. But because he was registered Democrat, come on in and vote. He voted Republican. But he was still, if you think if he went there registered as a Republican, he was going to allowed to go there with that, hey, this is me. Look at me. I got a full head of hair. My hair is black. Yeah, no, I swear it's me. Because he was a Democrat, they didn't even look at it. That's okay, sir. Go ahead. Right over there. It's the Democratic, don't forget to check those ones. And he was like, no, I'm going to do a Republican anyway. So he goes and he does his speech. And he tells you, everybody's a racist that doesn't agree with him. Well, go back to one of our podcasts. We did a podcast on Project 1619. You'll be surprised. Look at that. And we did the racial history of the Democratic Party. Look at that again. That almost might be worth the podcast to redo again. Because the racial background of the Democratic Party goes back to before the Civil War. And it still continues to this day. Again, Biden, just look at Biden's history. As regards to the black and the Spanish communities. He backed busing, where his vice president actually debated him on the stage, and then she still willingly, because she's such a proponent in standards of racial, she became this guy's vice president, the biggest racist that was in there. He also voted for the crime bill under President Clinton, where if you were arrested and prosecuted for selling crack cocaine, which was widely used in the black neighborhood and the Spanish neighborhoods, for the same weight that powdered cocaine was sold for, selling crack cocaine at the same weight of powdered cocaine, to this day holds a longer prison sentence than powder cocaine the same weight, because at the time the powder cocaine was used for Wall Street. It was very expensive, and crack cocaine was cheap. President Biden voted for that, and it still stands today. The man's a racist through and through. His friends in the Senate were racist. Byrd filibustered, the longest filibuster in history, to delay civil rights in the 60s. Biden spoke at his funeral. True friend of President Biden. Flat out racist. Had to open up his own Ku Klux Klan branch so he could get the endorsement of them. So he had signed up 150 people into the Ku Klux Klan so he could get elected in his state as a U.S. Senator. This was Biden's friend. You don't believe me? Look it up. Listen to our last podcast. Don't believe me. Don't believe Dennis. Don't believe what our research did. Look at it yourself. All right? This is a man that's standing in Georgia talking about how everybody's a racist that doesn't stand by what he wants, which is elections with no sign verification, no ID needed, nothing. All right? Everybody in this country has an ID if they own their own place, rent a place, have a cable bill, have an electric bill, go fly. You can't fly unless you have an ID, and it's a special ID. All right? So stop the lies. You have anything to say on that?
I do.
You covered it.
I don't understand how that's racist that you need an ID. They're giving them out free. They are free IDs. How is that different?
Yeah,
how are you being racist against? Because
If it's not a driver's, if it's not a driver's license in South Carolina,
right,
it's free.
A state ID, which is what you would need to vote, is free in South Carolina. And I hear in other states, I think in Georgia, they're free. I'm not sure, but I think
Even if they wanted to charge you $15, how is it racism that you need an ID?
everybody needs it. It's
And
not
you
like
need
they're-
one, and I need one, and everybody watching needs one.
Well, you need one to get anything.
Yeah.
You know, when you go
But
to the
how is that
hospital,
classified as
do you have
racism?
ID?
You can't get on a plane without ID.
Right.
So why should it be any different with voting?
All right. So before we get into the Department of Education, I don't have much on the Department of Education because I was going to bounce off of Dennis. So this is running a little long, and we got to try and get this under 45 minutes, which it probably will. The next thing is I'm still very nervous of what may happen after the Olympics. The Winter Olympics is happening in China. And I think China's waiting because they're going to be the very polite host of the Winter Olympics. Come do the Olympics in our country. We're going to show you how very nice we can. You know, they're going to put the Communist Party off to the side for the weeks that the Winter Olympics is going to start in about 3 weeks, maybe a little less, and goes on for however many weeks after that. But after that, there is no way that you're going to tell me that China and Russia don't have a plan to put the world on the brink of war. All right? Because right after the Olympics, I feel, now I'm not anybody. I don't have any staff. You're looking at my staff, my son, my brother, my other son, my wife that supports me and everything, Dennis and everybody in his family, my sister and my brother, you know, everybody is supporting me on this. That's the only staff I have. But I do feel that China is going to try and take back Taiwan by force. And I do believe Russia is going to invade the Ukraine. And I think that North Korea and Iran, the red herrings on this, are going to do whatever they're going to do. And nobody cares what they're going to do as far as China and Russia is concerned, because it's just going to throw more it's going to throw more wood on the fire. North Korea is doing more and more rocket tests as we speak, because again, the UN should have been in North Korea as soon as Trump crossed the border and spoke with that man. The UN should be a part of what was going on in Taiwan and China. They're not anyway. We're spending $750 billion for nothing to the UN. You know, we spoke on the last podcast what the UN is doing, which is nothing except pushing the social and communist agenda. So China and Russia got together I believe. No truth in this. Just my assumption in what I read and the way I interpret it. My interpretation is Russia and China have never been friends. And they still may not be friends. But they know there's an end result that's common for the two of them. China's going to go towards Taiwan and Russia's going to go into the Ukraine. And that's going to cause a problem worldwide that the leaders in Washington, D.C., both sides of the aisle, cannot handle right now. They don't understand. They will not be able to figure out how to handle those two invasions. Never mind what Iran does, and never mind what North Korea does. That's just going to be a cherry on the top for Russia and China. It is going to bring the world on the brink of war again, with two unstable countries of Iran and North Korea, that both of their governments are insane. Russia and China working together on both sides of their world to meet in the middle. And then that'll be a problem for them to figure out. But by then, they want the world dominance in their back pocket. And they know that the Democratic Party in office right now cannot handle that. Washington, D.C. and Congress on both sides of the aisle are so inept and so juvenile, they cannot handle a true crisis of the world, never mind in this country, never mind in their own party. We are in a lot of trouble, folks, when the Winter Olympics is over. You got anything to say?
No, I think they're going to hit it simultaneously.
Absolutely.
Putin is a smart man, and Putin will get along. My friend.
Yeah, China's
even though we have never got along, you're going to benefit from it, and I'm going to benefit from it. If we hit it at the same time, what can they do? America has no backbone right now. What can we do?
We have no leaders.
What can we do? And they know it.
The leaders in Washington, D.C. agree with the government of Russia and China right now.
Yeah.
So, again, okay, so that was first call. That was pretty heavy. Now we're going to come back and talk about the Department of Education. All right, it's a cabinet-level department. And I don't know if anybody knows how old this Department of Education is, but it's not very old as far as bureaucracies go. President Jimmy Carter was the person that did this. Education, the unions, the local unions came to Jimmy Carter when he was running for president and said, hey, we will give you backing for this many millions of people that belong to our unions throughout the country if you give us a cabinet-level Department of Education. He said, you got it. Now, I don't want to beat up on Jimmy Carter too much because I feel, truly, his heart was in the right place. He was one of the worst presidents we had until this idiot we got now. But he was the bad president with the heart in the right place. I mean, you can disagree with me. I don't think Jimmy Carter was a real power-hungry guy. I mean, you could tell as soon as he got elected out of office, he went back to his private, became a very good human being. I mean, these Habitat for Humanity, he built a lot of homes for people and a lot of opportunities.
It's the people he surrounded himself.
And he stayed out of politics for the rest of his life. And you're right, Sir Patrick. When he went in there, he was an outsider, and the people that he surrounded himself with, they didn't do the right thing for him. And they would have been great today with the animals that are in office now. So he said, yeah, you guys that sounds like a great idea. Department of Education will take over the whole education. Everybody will learn the right way. You got it. So, October 17, 1979, the Department of Education was formed. Today, the secretary is Miguel Angel Cardona. He was confirmed through the Senate on a vote of 64 to 33. So that means 14 Republicans voted for this guy. All right? 14 of them. So, they implemented critical race theory. And he accepted it. Now, parents, because of the shutdown, the lockdown of COVID, were looking over the shoulders of their children. What are you learning today? What? You're learning that? Whoa! So they started going to school board meetings. So the school board said, hey, we can't handle these parents. They're getting really ruckus. They're out of their mind. They're crazy. They're anti-American. We need you to write a letter to to KGB and tell them that these parents coming to these board of election, these school board meetings are terrorists. And our weak-minded leader of the KGB, he wrote out. Now all of these parents that are against critical race theory, gender neutral. I mean, there was a guy that got arrested in Virginia because his daughter was sexually assaulted in a female's bathroom by a gender male. Was arrested at the meeting because he put the feet to the flame of the department. Hey, my daughter got sexually assaulted because of your policies. Yeah, you're an animal. Lock him up. Get him out of here. Look at all this. So, now the parents that go to these meetings are terrorists to the United States because of this man that is now the secretary, Miguel Cardona. He considers us that are looking out for our kids terrorists, you animal. And they literally have. The Virginia governor got voted out, and they got a new one. But he said on TV, it wasn't a news report, it was him saying that the American people, the American parent, has no right in any kind of education decision. Get out of here, you maniac. What do you know? We know better. They want to indoctrinate your kids from preschool through college to think the way they think. Got anything to say about that?
You covered it.
Thank God your daughter's in Germany, right?
Yeah.
Mike?
Well, I think it's an outrage.
It is an outrage.
I don't think...
And that guy got voted out. And unfortunately, falsely, they believe that there's going to be a red wave of change in this country. Well, guess what? It's not. Because New York City voted in a Democratic mayor that was anti-police while he was a police officer. He used to show up to City Hall complaining about law enforcement while he was a law enforcement officer. He went all the way up to the rank of captain in that police department. And now Manhattan voted in a new DA that doesn't want to charge 12 crimes. He is not going to bring them to trial. One of them is turnstile jumping. That is not only not a misdemeanor, but it's a violation. Well, over the weekend, a turnstile jumper, I'm sure, he did not pay his fee to get into the subway, pushed a woman in front of the train and she got killed.
Yep.
That's what happens when you do not charge people with lower crimes. They turn into higher crimes, felonies, all the way up to murder. So, I would like to think that the midterm is going to be this huge red wave and I don't even care about the red wave, because as I go into this, you will see that the Republicans have not really stood by getting rid of the Department of Education. So a red wave, to me, doesn't mean anything, because if you're not into the Declaration of Independence, simultaneously, which they're together, the Constitution of the United States, you're not a politician, you're not a leader. You got anything to say about that?
You covered it. Pretty clean
All right.
cut there.
But we have to go by the Constitution, or things like this happen.
So what do you do about this? So here, what I'm going to do is, now I'm going to go through the history of this new Department of Education that Jimmy Carter put in. President Ronald Reagan tried to get rid of it as a cabinet post, but was unable to. in 1980 because the Democrats ran the House on both sides. By 1984, the GOP, the Republicans, dropped the issue from their platform. So they got rid of that. They were like, listen, Ronnie, keep eating your jelly beans. This is done. We're gonna. And why do you think that? You think some of them were starting to get some kickbacks from the unions too? You think some Republican from New York or Illinois or California, you think from these liberal states, some of these Republicans were starting to get some kickbacks from the teachers' unions and said, it's there. What could it do to us? What harm could there be from having a Department of Education? I mean, what are they going to do? Teach critical race theory? I mean, come on. All right? So after 1984, boop, boop, it's off the Republican platform. President George H.W. Bush and the GOP were hand in glove with the Democrats on this issue. After 1994, with the GOP's contract with America, all right? That's when Newt Gingrich was there. They had control. Well, spending on the education soared. In the meantime, 1996, the GO platform was again saying they were going against to no avail. Again. So, 1994, contract with America, everything's Republican, everything's going to be beautiful, which, by the way, was the last time that the full House saw anything about term limits, and it was voted down and lost by one vote, and that was a Republican, the party that brought the contract of America to the House. The budget for the Department of Education soared under George H.W. Bush and Newt Gingrich and the Republican-led House. Okay? So here's your Republicans. They're going hand in glove with the Democrats. Got anything?
I think it just comes down to money at the end of the day.
Right.
Why you say whether you're, Republican or not, all of a sudden you change your mind like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Money is a powerful
You're
thing.
talking about 1994 is only 14 years after 1980.
And it was like
It's only 10. It's only 10 years from when the Republicans took it off their platform altogether. All right. So there we have it. So here we go. We're going to continue. George W. Bush loved the Department of Labor and raised their budget from $46 billion to $60 billion and assigned to it the Department of Education got a new building, Lyndon Baines Johnson's Department of Education building. All right? So now, when was Bush elected? 2000? Yeah. So from 80 to 2000, not only did they take it off of their platform, not only did they raise their budget to it, but then they soared the budget from $46 billion to $60 billion and gave them a building. And the name of the building is a Democrat. Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ. He was the president after Kennedy got assassinated, and then he got elected again, and then he didn't run when Nixon ran. So not only under a Republican did they raise the price from $46 billion to $60 billion for the budget, they gave him a building. And they didn't name it Reagan. They didn't name it, I don't know, Teddy Roosevelt. No, they gave it a Democratic name under a Republican. And they made the budget go that much higher. Why do you do that? No student left behind. You know what that means? He passed a bill. No student left behind. That meant no matter how bad you did in school, you were going to go to the next grade. So what does that happen? So he thought no student's going to be left behind. That this Department of Education and all the unions under it were going to make sure that every student was ready to go to the next grade. But unions being unions and bureaucrats being bureaucrats, that didn't happen. So now the teachers go, I don't have to teach this kid anything. You want to know why? He's going to go to the next grade
He's
anyway.
going forward anyways.
He's not my problem anymore. It's the next guy's problem. So they didn't teach. And these kids went through high school without knowing how to do any kind of math, any kind of reading, any kind of science. Da-di-da-di-da. Go right through. And what happens with that? Then he goes to college. Same thing. And if you guys remember, all of our... Sal Alinsky wrote a book on socialism. And one of the big things in socialism is education. Get rid of the education. People they don't know. Get rid of the history. They don't know. But we're not going to socialism, I don't think, folks. I think we're going to fascism. So, today, we have schools that are teaching our children that the biggest problem in the world is America. We have teachers that are school districts that are teaching our kids that the other kids in their class are better than them. You imagine that?
Well, that's when they're at school.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Oh, well, if you don't go to school, you can't get educated.
Right.
So we'll keep you at home. How do you do it on the computer?
I do believe they want them in school because now they realize that the parents are seeing what's going on, except for Chicago.
I mean,
those teachers don't even want to show up anymore.
It's a coin toss, though. Like, part of me feels like they do want them in school for that reason you just spoke about. And the other part's like, well, if you don't go to school, you're not educated, and whatever we say,
you're going to believe.
You're going to believe, and you're going to go along with. It's a double-edged sword, no matter which way you look at it.
They're win-win, according to Sean Patrick. Win-win. Come to school, don't come to school. Either way, you're uneducated.
Do you agree with that, or?
I mean, I agree with all situations. Again, if they go to school, these teachers are allowed to tell them, listen, Johnny over there, he's better than you because he's this. You are a failure. Johnny over there, he's a loser because of this. These kids are never brought up. They're pushed down. Pushed down for a reason. And according to these kids, every single problem in the world is because America, the founding of America, everything to do with capitalism, and the freedom of a republic. There is no problem. So, that's what I got today. Final call. I'll ask you, Patrick, you got anything finally to say? Whether it's regarding the Department of Education or anything else we spoke about?
No, covered it pretty well.
Mike?
Well, I think, I heard somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying, liberals look out, and everybody out there is the problem that they have. I'm short because there are tall people out there. I'm stupid because there are smart people out there. It's everybody else's fault.
Yeah, I'm poor because rich people are out there.
I'm poor because there are rich people out there. Instead of saying, I'm poor, what can I do about it to make myself better? And that's the way they're being taught.
Jack, you got anything? Jack's been over there. Get ready, Mike. All right, so here we go. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Don't worry about a comment. We love comments. Don't worry about emailing us, uscg20211@aol.com. Subscribe, like, send, share. It's fedupwithpolitics.com. fedupwithpolitics.com. Thank you, Sean Patrick, for sitting in.
Yeah.
Dennis, you and your girlfriend feel better. I don't think Dennis is sick yet. Hopefully he doesn't. He's been vaccinated. And as Dennis says, Well, as I say, get away from the idiot box. Read. Congratulations to my sister Margaret. She's reading the Constitution thoroughly. And to help her through reading the Constitution thoroughly, she does a lot of work. She knows the Constitution, but she's reading through it again, along with Founder's Key. That's the president of Hillsdale College. The guy woke me up. I've always been a history buff, but the guy's a genius. Read that book. Read the Constitution. The Constitution and the amendments are only 36 pages long. It's on our website, fedupwithpolitics.com. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us on Spreaker. Not this week, though. And as Dennis says, thank you, Dennis, knowledge is power. Thank you.
Thank you.